Adam Thielen, we've said it time and time again, he's one of the brightest stories in sports history, in my opinion. This guy, undrafted, joins the Vikings, gets signed, is a special team guy, has his big moment against the Panthers when he blocks a punt. Zimmer trusts him to, move him up maybe in the 3 or 4 spot in the wide receiver depth chart. Then he moves his way up to number 3, to number 2, now to number 1. Adam Thielen's got to be one of the most underpaid athletes in Minnesota history when you look at it in terms of maybe down the road here. I mean, he might be one of the most underpaid athletes ever in Minnesota history just based on he came out of nowhere. And once again, his contract's not even kicking in until next year. $805,000 for putting up Randy Moss-esque numbers last year. This is a guy that had 100 yards in each of his, first 8 games? He broke the record. I mean, he had... let's just go off last year. 113 receptions, 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns. So far this year, he's got 6 touchdowns, 391 yards, 27 receptions. It's because the way he started. I mean, Kirk Cousins wasn't throwing the ball very much. But just over these last couple seasons here, even in 2017, his first kind of breakout year, 91 receptions, 1,300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Adam Thielen's been unbelievable for this team, and he checks in at number 3. Number 2, Jorge Polanco. I mean, how about Jorge Polanco? Let's just look at his story really quickly. Twins signed him from the Dominican Republic. He comes over. He does a pretty nice job in his first rookie year, and then he has the PED bust, and he's suspended. And I remember when he got busted, I was looking at his numbers. I'm like, man, for a guy that got caught using steroids, he at least hit 30 home runs, Like, his stats weren't impressive at all for a guy that got caught cheating. But he comes back the next year. He's a leadoff hitter on this team for a while. Then he moves to this 2 spot. Then he moves to the 3 spot. He was the most consistent hitter on this Minnesota Twins team. 295 batting average, 22 home runs, 79 RBIs. He made an all-star team this year. He also hit for the cycle on April 5th, 2019. He has been an amazing, amazing player thus far for this Minnesota Twins organization. You ready for here? Let's just look at this contract. He is on a $5 million base salary, and they signed him and Kepler the beginning of the year last year, and I kind of like raised my eyebrows. Wait, what? Why are you signing Kepler and Polanco? They didn't do really anything to deserve that. Well, Twins made a hell of a decision extending both of them because they both had career years last year. So Jorge Polanco checks in at number 2. I'm glad he's in a Minnesota uniform. Guy's only 25 years old. 25 years old. And they have him signed for the next few years here. This is going to be a very, very interesting talent to keep your eye on over these next couple years. I think he can be a perennial all-star. He's a tremendous fielder. And he has just a tremendous bat. I mean, the way his bat speed, he can poke it into left, he can poke it into right. He's got pretty underrated power for a man of his size. Jorge Polanco, 25 years old on a $5 million contract, coming off an all-star game and an all-star appearance. This is a all-time steal, okay, in terms of his talent and how much you're getting him for. Number 1 on this list, and I went back and forth on this, Jose Barreros, okay, and yes, he had a tremendous start to the year. He kind of faded out towards the end. He finished 14-8 with a 3.6 ERA. He also made an all-star appearance. I think that's his second one in his career. When I looked at his contract, I was ready to, throw my phone. I was like, wait, what? This is how much he's getting paid? Do you know how much Jose Barreros is making on his base salary? $500,000. $500,000 to be 14-8 with a 3.6 ERA and make his second All-Star appearance. You look at aces around the league. You look at Max Scherzer. You look at Zach Greinke. These guys are making $34 million a year, okay? Pitching. Jose Barreros, who was a Cy Young candidate earlier in this year. $500,000? I mean, how can that not be the most underpaid athlete in Minnesota right now? He's had a really nice career thus far. He's got, obviously, tons of talent. And he's so young. I mean, this is a guy that he made his second All-Star game, and guess how old he is? 25 years old, same as Jorge Polanco. Look, this is a guy that has a ton of talent ahead. I think he's got a lot more all-star appearances left in him. I also think he can be a Cy Young winner. I really do. He's got some filthy stuff. He's got a pretty good fastball. His breaking ball and his slide, he's got some really nasty stuff when it's on. I think that's the biggest thing. When he is on and he's throwing that breaking ball, my goodness, there's not a lot of guys that can hit it in this league. And you saw it earlier in this year. He was the Cy Young candidate. He really was. And then he kind of fell off when it came to August and September, of course, when it matters most. But hey, Jose Barreros checks in at number 1 here. He is my most underpaid athlete in Minnesota. In review here, we've got Adam Thielen, $805,000 base salary. Jorge Polanco, $5 million a year. He is 25 years old. Number 1 is Jose Barreros, who came off his second All-Star appearance in 2 years. 14-8, 3.60 ERA, $500,000 base salary. All right, as we kind of approach this game today, I just wanted to give you 3 things to look out for in today's matchup. First of all, the linebackers, Vikings linebackers versus Travis Kelce. Vikes have some issues covering vertical tight ends. I know that Darren Waller from Oakland had about 25 receptions, and then Zach Ertz had a pretty good game, Austin Hooper. So we'll see how Zimmer is able to match up with a Travis Kelce, who I think is the best tight end in the league. You can give or take him or Zach Ertz. Will Barr drop into coverage? Remember last time against the LA Rams when he was matched up against Todd Gurley? That did not end too well. I don't know if Kendricks can cover him either, so we'll keep an eye on that. Also, Kansas City's outside wide receivers, as Blair has mentioned, they've got tremendous speed. How will the Vikings secondary respond? They're very thin in that area. Xavier Rhodes is having his worst year of his career right now. Mike Hughes got busted in the car with J-Ron Kerr, so I don't know what's going on with him. Trey Waynes has been the most consistent guy, but this is a wide receiving core, and Tyreek Hill, McCole Harmon, and Sammy Watkins, they could play. They could flat out play. And then I think the rush offense of the Minnesota Vikings versus the KC rush defense, I think that's going to give a lot of problems to that KC defense. So those are some 3 things you should keep your eye on here as we approach 12 o'clock your time, 1 o'clock my time. Last thing we're going to do here, and then we'll do our picks. The month of November, and I said something earlier on Twitter about PJ Fleck and how they got off to the 4-0, 5-0 start, and I mentioned that championships aren't won in October, and people on Twitter were like, whoa, championships, what are you talking about? Well, just like that, yeah, we're talking about championships. We're talking about the Big Ten West. And for the month of November, this is going to define the Gopher football season, and I think, quite honestly, the Viking season. Let's just start with the Gophers here. They're 8-0. Let me ask you this. How much will this season be remembered if the Gophers go on here to lose to Penn State, Northwestern, Iowa, and Wisconsin, and they finish 8-4? How much will you remember? Let's be honest here. Because I personally think if that happens, it's just like, oh man, same old Gophers. Because they beat everyone they were supposed to beat. Let's be honest. Was there one upset in your mind that you didn't think they were going to win? Is there one game where you can say, man, I can't believe they won this game, like a statement victory? They beat up on bad teams. Let's be honest. But they've got their opportunity. And November is going to define the way the Gopher season ends up and how we end up talking about this 2019 group. Because if they can go and they can beat a Penn State or a Northwestern, and logically this is how you're going to win the Big Ten West. You've got to win 3 out of 4. That's it. You have to win 3 out of 4. Because right now you got a 2-game lead over Iowa and Wisconsin. Now if you go on and you beat Penn State, and then let's just say you lose to Penn State, which I think they will. You lose to Penn State. You've got to win the next 3. And you've got to win the next 3 to validate your season. Let's be honest. You got to validate your season. Go on and you got to go beat Northwestern. You got to go on the road and beat Iowa and then handle a Wisconsin team who I think has been exposed these last few weeks against Illinois and Ohio State. You've got to validate your season. Like, do you really want to back in here? Even if you win the Big Ten West, you really want to do it by losing 3 out of 4 and then Wisconsin and Iowa end up having terrible endings to their season. You back in at 9-3 and then you get clapped by Ohio State? No. You've got an opportunity here to go 11-1, to go 10-2. This is a season that can be remembered for the ages. PJ Fleck's statue will be made in front of TCF Bank if they can figure out a way to win double-digit, victories here. And then for the Vikings, You look at their next 4 games. At Kansas City, at Dallas, home against Denver, which you should win, and then you're at Seattle Monday night. 3 out of the next 4 games, you're playing 500 teams. And that's going to determine here whether you can maybe upend the Green Bay Packers in that division. And now we can start talking about home field advantage, which I think is vital for this team. They're day and night from being at home to being away, especially outdoors. You know, they play Detroit. They put up a ton of points against Detroit, but you know what? Detroit's in the dome. Can the Vikings go on the road? Can they go to a Seattle late December and win? Can they go to, maybe a Green Bay late December and win? Right now, they can't. Right now, logically, looking back, they can't. So I think that these next 3 games, and I'm not really talking the Broncos because Broncos stink. They're done with. Flacco's out. But at Kansas City, at Dallas, night game, at Seattle, Monday night game, these games are going to dictate whether this team is going to be a legit threat come December. Because if they can figure out ways to even split, I think if you're a Viking fan, you're looking at 2-2. I think that's what you should be hoping for. I think they can beat Kansas City. I think they can beat the Cowboys, and I think they can beat everyone on this schedule. But I think realistically speaking, you hope to beat the Chiefs, you hope to beat Denver, and then you let the chips fall where they may for the Cowboys and Seahawks. And right now, you're 6-2. I think if you go 2-2 and you're 8-4, last 4 games left, I think you're looking good. I really do. The season's halfway over with. As crazy as it sounds, they got 8 games left. But these next 4 are critical, and also for the confidence. I mean, these are called playoff-tested teams, right? Like, if you can go into Kansas City and win, whether it's Patrick Mahomes or Matt Moore, and you win that game, your team gets confidence. The league starts respecting you. You go to Dallas and beat Dallas, that's a chemistry builder. That's a team builder right there. That's saying, hey, we look around, hey, Kirk can lead us. You go to Seattle, and that's a tremendously such a hard place to play at. And last year they struggled tremendously. They lost 21-7. They had every chance in the book to win this game. You can go to Seattle, man, you can go anywhere because that's one of the toughest places to play in all of football. And most likely, if you want to get to the Super Bowl, and we're talking crazy right now, but if you want to get deep in the playoffs, you're going to have to go to a Seattle. You're going to have to go to a Green Bay. You're going to have to maybe go to a Dallas. And those are not easy places to play. So the next 4 games here are really going to determine whether these seasons for these 2 teams are a success or not. I'm not ready to call the Gophers season a success right now if they end up losing 4 games. Because then you look back and you're like, They beat who they're supposed to beat, and they lost to who you thought they were going to lose to. That's it. I mean, let's be honest. You can sit and give me, they're 8-0, Steven. Oh, man, first time since Theodore Roosevelt has been president. I don't care. I don't care about that. You beat this is like a non-conference schedule. I mean, let's be honest here. These aren't very good teams that the Gophers beat. They beat them handedly. But let's go beat a Penn State, beat a Northwestern, Iowa, Wisconsin, validate the season. That's what my mantra is for the month of November. Validate your season. And for the Vikings, show me something different here in November. You tell me, we got things figured out. We can beat teams on the road now. Okay, you did that in October. Do it in November. And if you're able to split here and go 2-2, and you sit here at 8-4 with 4 games left, I would be very, very happy. And I think they can win all 4 of them. Will they? No. But can they win all 4 of them? 100%. But it starts today. Can the Minnesota Vikings go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs? And for the Gophers, can they stand up to the big bad bully, which is Penn State, undefeated, top 5 right now in the country? Can they show the country that they're not just some fluke and they're not just beating up on bad teams, which I think they are? Can they compete with Penn State and maybe have a chance at the end to beat this Nittany Lion team at home? Because I think the crowd's going to be amped up. As much as I hate the start time, and I won't get into that, they've got a chance here. And then Northwestern is very offensively challenged. They can beat them. And then at Iowa and at Wisconsin and home against Wisconsin. What will the season be? How will it be defined? That will happen in November. All right, let's segue to the picks here. And Michael Hickman is in Princeton, New Jersey this weekend, and he's doing his, not to share too much information,